My name is Nkechi Ofewu. Welcome to Busy Mom Skincare Channel. Today is going to be one of our philosophical talks, and today I'm going to be talking on the issue of daring to be yourself. So this topic actually came about while I was listening to someone talking about the story of David and Goliath, and suddenly something jumped at me that I haven't actually quite noticed for the past over 20 years, times 2 of my life, that I probably have been aware of the story of David and Goliath. So I thought I would share this with you today to encourage someone and also maybe to get your comments on what you think about this. So the story of David and Goliath is quite a popular one in the Bible. It's a story about a little Rudy boy who slayed a giant just using sling stones. But there was a little bit more that I got just listening to that story again after over 40 years of having known that story. And it was the fact that he dared to believe in himself, the fact that he dared to go against the convention. So basically, I will explain to you what I mean. First and foremost, you don't always have to do something the way it's been done before. Just because it's not the way it's normally done doesn't mean that the way you want to do it is not right, or that you cannot achieve amazing results by charting your own course in life. That's the first lesson I learned from that. Another lesson I picked from that story was how you must never despise your personal experiences, your efforts, your wins, your journey in life, the things that you've learned along the way, the successes you've had in life, how you must never disregard them, demean them, despise them, not think much about them just because you think other people are doing amazing things, just because you think other people are doing great things. I dare you to think about all the successes that you've had in life, all seemingly insignificant, but I want you to extrapolate the strategies that you have used in those seemingly insignificant successes, seemingly insignificant wins in your life. If you extrapolate the strategies that you've used to accomplish those, you will actually understand that those same strategies can achieve the same successes in more significant, bigger, and more audacious wins, if I can use that balance, in wins that are recognized worldwide. David was a little shepherd boy. I don't really know in the context of the way the setting where the story was and at the time that it was. I'm not sure shepherds. I don't know what social strata being a shepherd was, but definitely being a soldier was higher than it, and definitely being a king was higher than it, I would assume. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if you're a bit of a historical scholar and you know what social status shepherds were at the time of the story setting that I'm trying to talk about in the ancient before Christ times. So he was a little shepherd boy, but in that his little work that he does in the corner of the forest somewhere away from the rest of the world, there were things that were happening to him. He was having experiences that maybe may not be significant to people, maybe does not really matter in the big scheme of affairs, but he didn't despise those experiences. He celebrated those experiences. He noted those experiences. He recognized those experiences, and he understood the principle behind those experiences. He's tending to his flock. a lion comes along, he goes, grabs that lion, and he kills the lion. He's tending to his flock, a bear comes along, he goes, grabs the bear, and kills the bear. I don't think that there's any part of history where killing or slaying bears and lions is regarded as a mean feat, to be honest. I think there's no society that doesn't regard that as something grand, something amazing. I don't know whether he probably went home on one of these days and he told his siblings or his father that, oh, look what happened today. I actually did this today. This happened to me today and I did this today. It wasn't really recorded whether his family members knew about all these things that he was doing, that was happening to him, these experiences that he was having. But it turned out that one day he went to do a little bit of errand run to his siblings, and he overheard this huge giant of a man who was challenging his people to a duel and saying, okay, you just get me somebody to fight with. If you win, we become your slaves. If I win, you become our slaves. And everybody was petrified and everybody was in deep fear. And when he saw that man, for some strange reason, he wasn't. And I think that's because he's had various experiences in his life where he's come face to face with real life death, challenging, life-threatening circumstances where death was actually imminent. Attacking a bear is a life-threatening incident. It's actually a very near, it's a life-threatening incident. It's something that could potentially end you. So he's had those kind of encounters before, and this presented a similar circumstance. And because he'd had all these kind of experiences before, it was something that he was able to it wasn't something that overwhelmed him with fear, because he's done it several times. It's almost becoming normal to him to go through life-threatening circumstances and because he developed a strategy that he uses to overcome them. So when everybody else was petrified and scared, he wasn't. He went to the king after making inquiries, and and when the king confronted him about that and actually tried to dissuade him from it, just like everybody else he had told before then, he was convinced that he had a plan and a strategy that would work based on the fact that he had tried and tested it. And when the king noticed that he couldn't convince him any further, he allowed him and said to him, okay, I think you know what you're doing well. I hope that God helps you. I hope that the strategy that you rely on so much, that you have so much confidence in, I hope that it comes true for you. But then there was something the king did, which is something that I can very much relate with, which is something that I think we do almost on a daily basis, sometimes even unconsciously. He decided to put on him his whole armor to make him fit to be able to do the task that he wanted to do. Sometimes, based on our experiences in life, our personal journeys, nothing grand and highfalutin that the world has come to recognize, but these are experiences that can be extrapolated into something great and grand that the world will celebrate. But because it's all happening on a micro level, on a local scale, maybe known only to us and maybe known only to our family members, we tend to disregard those strategies because it's not the strategy on CNN, it's not the strategy in Lagos Business School, it's not the one that has been propounded by this great and amazing philosopher, this amazing and experienced Nobel, it hasn't gotten any world recognition or attention whatsoever. But it's our strategy. It's proven and tested by only little us, but it has worked for us, but maybe nobody else knows about it. Maybe we're the only ones who know about it, or maybe it hasn't been propounded to so much publicity that it's not actually common knowledge everywhere. And because it's not common knowledge everywhere, we then tend to think that it mustn't be useful. It must be, not what we need if we need to achieve heights or, attain higher successes. Now back to the story. So here, Saul thinks, okay, here you are, you're a shepherd boy, you're probably dressed in your shepherd clothes. We already heard from that passage of the Bible at the beginning, we already saw the paraphernalia of war that Goliath had. Apart from his intimidating frame, he had all sorts of armors and all sorts of spears and swords and javelins and coats, and he had all sorts. I mean, he must have been a very intimidating sight with the height of him and all these paraphernalia of war that he had on. And there you are, David, you're probably in your sheepskin, in your shepherd's clothes. And so Saul, in his wisdom, thought, okay, let me give you, here is my coat, here is my sword, here is my this, my that. You probably need to put them on so that you can look the part. And because this is a strategy that is well known, soldiers are well known to be, dressed up in a paraphernalia of war, not dressed up in sandals and sheepskins and all sorts of, shepherdly garments. This is what we know. This is what the world recognizes. This is what is tried and tested. This is what great warriors have used. I mean, you could look at Goliath, look at him, look at how he's dressed, look at all the great warriors of our times. And in times past, they are always, this is the standard. And David tried it on. I mean, he hasn't ever been a soldier before. So he tried it on. He put on all those armors and he took the sword and he took everything. And he just realized that he was not going to achieve anything based on this new strategy. This is not the strategy that he knows. This is not the strategy that he's been using to do the kind of exploits he's been doing. He's been killing lions and bears without this. He has developed over time a strategy that works. Now, that's not to say that all these coats and armors and things are not useful. But he has developed a strategy that has worked for him, that he's used to. And perhaps it is so short a time to actually quickly swap what he's known, that he has tried and tested, for something that is alien or new to him, even though it's recognized as the standard way of doing things. And he was very wise, and he said to the king, I'm sorry, but I think I'm not used to these sort of things. I will not be able to do what I usually do when I face situations like this, using this new strategy that everybody knows, and that is a standard operating procedure for this, and it's been propounded by the great scientists and the most amazing scholars use and the most successful people use. It must be great, but I also have developed something that I developed personally that has worked for me. Dare to believe in yourself. Dare to believe that your thoughts, your actions, your ideologies, dare to believe that they matter, and dare to believe that they are also valid. Because the people who developed those highfalutin ideologies and thoughts and principles, they're all human like you. They came up one day, had an idea, and were bold enough to expound it and to, make it known. The same way your little ideologies and thoughts and thought patterns and plans and your unique way of doing things is an idea that if you're bold enough like those other people to propound and to expose to the world, it could also then become the standard. So David was bold enough, he was confident enough in what he knows and who he is, and he said, no, I have something that works for me. And he got his strategy together, the one that has always worked for him. He got his sling, he got his stones, and he got his staff. And with these three proven, tried and tested strategies by David, by only David, out in the wilderness, fighting, dealing with life-threatening situations, impossible situations, possibly situations that could have ended him, dealing with all those things. But all the time, this strategy worked for him. He set out to defeat Goliath. When he got to Goliath, of course, Goliath was furious. I mean, Goliath thought he must have been a joke. Goliath must have felt really insulted. Goliath's like, really? Like, here I am in all my glory, and you bring me this guy who has a sling and some stones and a staff. Like, am I a dog? Like, are you about to throw stones at me? I don't understand what's going on. He must have been so furious, and he just like, you know what, I'm going to tear you apart right now because this is so annoying. Here I am, this very experienced soldier, and you come out to me like this. You don't have respect. You think I'm a joke, or you underestimating me. He must have been so furious, and in his fury, he decided to go and just tear David apart and threw him about, you know, however he pleased. But David said to him, David had so much confidence in his strategy. And something else that I noticed about David was he had a why. He had a reason why he wanted to do what he wanted to do. The reason he wanted to do it there were two reasons that jumped out to me about the reason why David was so convinced about what he was doing. Because he wasn't a crazy person. He had assessed the situation critically, but he was convinced about the reason, his why he was doing what he was doing. He was convinced about the why, the basic, that's the why. I don't know how else to put it, but the why, the reason he was doing what he was doing. First, he was convinced that he could do this thing because he had faced similar situations and he'd been able to achieve, because he had a strategy that works. He knows what to do. He knows what plans, what equipment, what steps to take. He had a plan. He had a strategy for dealing with similar situations. And number two, he also felt very upset about the fact that this guy was challenging God's people, and he felt like it was an insult to God, and he believed that it was God who had already given him the strategy to deal with this sort of situations, and that the same God who had given him the strategy to deal with similar situations in the wilderness will equip him to be able to deal with this situation. He was so convinced about that. In short, he even told that to Goliath. He said to him, I am convinced that this is the reason why I'm doing this, because God is going to deliver you into my hands, because he's done that in the past. He had a strategy and he had a why. He was convinced about what he wanted to do. Do you have a strategy that has been working for you? Do you have a strong conviction about how you can extrapolate this strategy to achieve great things, greater things, things that the world would hear about? This is the story of David, a little shepherd boy in the wilderness who did not disregard the little experiences he was having while tending sheep. I mean, if the lions came, he could have actually ran away. He didn't have to fight with the little sheep. He could just try and save the other 90, whatever sheep he had, and let the lion have that one, let the bear have that one, and preserve his life and just stay safe. But in his daily, everyday activities, he showed a certain kind of quality that no one really cared about, but it was who he was. He was this great warrior inside, and he didn't disregard it. He didn't think, oh, it's nothing, just some lucky fluke I had there. He knew that it was something that he could develop into a strategy and then extrapolate to deal with other circumstances in life that were similar. That was the story of David and Goliath to me. And in order not to make this video too long, because honestly I can talk about this story for 1 hour, I want to challenge you today. Most of us are maybe stay-at-home moms, and because of that we disregard the skills that we have, we disregard the gifts that we have. Most of us don't know how amazing it is to be a great homekeeper. So if the children have cooked meals all the time, the house is spick and span, laundry is done. On top of that, you manage to take care of yourself. It's like you don't know the great skill of multitasking that you have. You don't know the great managerial skill that you have. You don't know the great conflict settling skills that you have. If you have more than 2 children, you're a conflict resolution expert. To be able to resolve conflicts within siblings amicably, to be able to manage those little children, get them to do what you want them to do when you want them to do it, to be able to be on time for school and to be on time for your activities. That's a great managerial skills. To be able to be cooking, be teaching children, be mopping the house, doing so many different things at the same time. That's a great multitasking skill. And on top of that, to be able to take care of yourself, that's an amazing gift. But most of us, it's just what moms do. Nah, it's nothing serious. You have this ability. Develop it into a strategy. Yes, today it might look like this is your entire life. Your life is revolving around these children and revolving around the 4 corners of this house. Therefore, you're not documenting the strategies that are helping you. You're not paying attention to them. You're even despising them. You're even looking down on yourself when you see, people who you consider doing very well in society. If you're not aware, if you're not self-aware of who you are, and if you do not recognize and celebrate the little wins and successes that you have in life, and you disregard them, and you do not develop them into a strategy, there might be a time when those strategies, it is what is required to launch you into the limelight, to take you to the next level. But because you haven't done the work properly when you should have done the work, you don't have a strategy. You haven't really, even though these opportunities to hone your skill, to make yourself strong, to build your confidence came across your way every day, you just chose the easy way out. You stayed in your comfort zone, and because it's nobody recognizes this job anyway. I mean, who's going to give me a medal for being a great mom? Who's going to give me a medal for being a good housekeeper? Who's going to give me a medal for making sure everything is spick and span? Who's going to give me a medal for that? I'm just going to rest. I'm just going to ignore it. So you choose the easy way out. Therefore, you're not honing your skills. You're not building in an experience. Maybe you're not even developing a strategy about how you're able to do these things that you do. When that opportunity presents itself, number one, you won't even have the confidence to face your Goliath. If you manage to muster up some confidence from somewhere to do this, you won't have a strategy. And at that point, people would be suggesting to you other strategies and other plans and other, why don't you put this on, put that on? And because you don't have a tried and tested strategy of your own, you might actually, let me wear this, let me take this sword, maybe it will work. And your story might not end up quite as successful as the story of David and Goliath. So today, I just want to challenge everyone, including myself. Let's not despise whatever it is we're doing, even though it doesn't look like much is going to come out of it, even though it looks like there's no recognition. Let's take it as a learning experience. Anytime we win, anytime we do something amazing, even in that little space, even in that small, unrecognizable setting, let's note what we did to achieve those successes. Let's build a strategy, because one day we might face a similar situation on a bigger scale, where those strategies we've learned in our local experiences in life, winning, making mistakes, learning what we did wrong, would be what would build our confidence to such a great extent that we have such a big conviction that we can do this. And at that point, you absolutely will be unstoppable. Share your thoughts with me on this. What do you think? What do you think about this David and Goliath? And are there areas of your life where you think that this story could be relevant to you? Thanks for listening to me today. And please like this video if you found it useful. Also, please kindly subscribe to our channel and share this video if you think that it would help somebody else. Until I come your way again, have a great day.